how a society constructs the roles and relations between the female and male halves of humanity affects everything. Our values, our institutions, families, whether it's authoritarian or democratic, economics, what kind of work is valued, politics, religion, and that's what my work's been about.
Share with us a little of what was so revolutionary about what you discovered in this research about, really, it's the untold history of women.
We have been taught a very peculiar notion about what it means to be human, where both women and men are deprived of part of their human potential. I began to see what others are beginning to see, drawing from archaeology, from the study of myths, from cross-cultural studies, from literature, from legal studies, etc., that actually the story of our cultural evolution we've been taught, which really, in a way, is summed up by the caveman cartoon, isn't it? You know, in one hand, he's got a club. With the other hand, he's dragging a woman by the hair. So what are we told, what do we tell children before their brains and their critical faculties are formed? That violence, domination, male dominance, that's how it's always been, by implication, how it always has to be. And of course, if you look actually at Stone Age art, you don't see anything even remotely suggesting this kind of social organization. And what you find in the cave art is an art that really celebrates not the power to take life, but the power to give and nurture life. And there are still cultures where we today, of course, find many clues to this earlier, what I call more partnership rather than domination-oriented civilization.
What does it mean to be in the dominator trance? And tell us more about that.
Well, you know, we hear today so much about a revolution on consciousness, don't we?
Yes.
But let's be very clear. It's really a very specific thing. It's awakening from what I've called the dominator trance, from the notion that we have all acquired, honestly, because, I mean, starting with our fairy tales, starting with the caveman cartoon, just about everything we've been taught, there's been only one alternative, the domination system. We know, for example, that, well, the brain, the human brain is a work in progress. We're not born with a fully developed brain. Our brains develop in interaction with our environment. And of course, at this stage, our cultural, not our physical environment, because that's where people first learn what is normal, what is moral, and they learn it not only on a mental and emotional level, but we're beginning to understand now they learn it on a neural level. And in Sacred Pleasure, I really talk about some of the terrible mechanisms. I mean, like in China, for example, the foot binding.
Yes.
I mean, if you consider that men actually were sexually aroused by a crippled female foot, and they would bind their feet and the flesh would fall off. I mean, the excruciating pain.
My grandmother's feet were bound, yes.
Well, and her mother did it to her. Why? Because that was the only way to be a proper woman.
Right.
Now, why was crippling a girl and causing so much pain by her own mother such an effective way of really conditioning women to see their identity, their whole sense of self, as not being defined by themselves, but being defined by pain, suffering, and subservience to men?
Yes. I still see this today. I mean, as you were describing the foot binding, which I know happened, I mean, my goodness, the high heels that we wear today are not that far off. Why do we do that? You're right, though, the connection to suffering that we take on. I don't know where it comes from. I mean, this is where it comes from. It's the dominator trance. How do we wake up from the dominator trance?
Well, the good news is that so many of us are, aren't we?
What do you say to women today going through those shifts in discovering who they are and really what they should honor themselves for.
So as both women and men are trying to redefine what does it mean to be human, really, what we also have to redefine is not only ourselves, but the systems around us. I woke up really during the late 1960s, along with thousands of other women, to understand how my life had been so limited, really, by the domination concept of femininity and masculinity. Yeah. That whole idea that we have been taught that male domination is really inherent in our genetic makeup, in our evolutionary imperative, or whatever language, it isn't so. And it isn't either matriarchy or patriarchy, which are really two sides of the domination mindset, aren't they? But partnership or domination.